He personally gave the recognition that rightfully belonged to me to the woman he loved. I turned and served him the divorce papers. He scoffed, convinced I couldn't make it without him. 3 years of our secret marriage ended with me leaving with absolutely nothing and finding myself ruthlessly blacklisted. Armed with only an old piano and a handful of heart-wrenching songs, I clawed my way back against all odds, becoming a global sensation. When my ex-husband finally tracked me down to that small island, watching me and my new love completely wrapped up in each other, it finally hit him. He hadn't gotten rid of a nuisance. He'd thrown away a priceless treasure. The glare of the spotlights burned my eyes. Thunderous applause echoed through the venue. The host's booming voice cut through the noise, announcing the winner of the Best Original Song of the Year, Olivia Foster. I stood in the shadows, wingside, dressed in an ill-fitting backup gown, feeling like an awkward observer. Meanwhile, my husband Ethan Sterling stood confidently on stage, personally handing that crystal trophy, the symbol of dreams and glory, to the sweetly smiling Olivia. Olivia, your talent deserves all of this. Ethan's voice carried through the microphone, reaching every corner, including the frozen depths of my heart. Olivia accepted the award, embracing him excitedly. Under the lights, they looked perfectly matched, as if they were the ones truly meant for each other. No one knew that the award-winning song Starlight Whispers was mine. The air in the dressing room after the ceremony was thick with tension. Ethan loosened his tie, his face flushed from alcohol, tinged with impatience. Ava, what's your problem now? He didn't even look at me, heading straight for the bar to pour himself a drink. It's just an award. Is it really worth sulking like this? I placed a document in front of him. The words, divorce agreement, were starkly clear. Let's get a divorce, Ethan. My voice was unervingly calm. His hand holding the glass paused. He finally looked at me properly, his eyes filled with disbelief and mockery. Divorce? Ava, are you insane? Over an award? Don't you forget who gave you everything you have now? What exactly do I have? I let out a soft, desolate laugh. A marriage I can't acknowledge? A career you casually suppress? Or the pleasure of watching you repeatedly gift what should be mine to someone else? The name Ava Sterling had been a beautiful cage imprisoning me for 3 years. He was the untouchable heir to the Sterling Group, and I was merely an orphaned girl taken in by his family, a wife he was forced to marry for alliances. For the past 6 months, his promotion of Olivia had become almost blatant. He assembled a top-tier team for her, leveraged Sterling Group resources to pave her way, even personally securing investments and making appearances for her. Everyone in the industry envied Olivia's luck, but who knew she was trampling on someone else's hard work and dignity? I had protested. Every time I was met with Ethan's cold sarcasm and verbal abuse. Ava, look at yourself. What can you do besides plink out a few sad tunes? Olivia is younger, prettier, and has more potential than you. What's wrong with me promoting her? The stuff you write is too niche, too small scale. It doesn't belong on a grand stage. When Olivia sings it, she gives it life. Why can't you just be Mrs. Sterling quietly? Why insist on embarrassing yourself in public? His words were knives slicing away at my heart piece by piece. I remember once feeling unusually cheerful. I told him I was craving the famous Black Forest cake from the shop on the west side. When he came home that night, he casually tossed a box at me. Inside was only half a cake, the edges clearly showing marks from a spoon. Here, Olivia's leftovers. She said it tasted pretty good, he said nonchalantly, as if it were a favor, not charity. I stared at the half-eaten cake, my stomach churning. I don't even like sweets, especially chocolate. He didn't know, or rather he never cared. Just like he never cared about me as a person. In these 3 years, he never once acknowledged my identity in public. When the media speculated, he brushed it off, calling me a friend. He allowed me to continue my music career but shackled me heavily. No roles with intimate scenes, no kissing scenes, not even the slightest hint of rumored romance with male co-stars. Any whisper of scandal brought his furious accusations and a complete shutdown of my resources. My career under his control struggled immensely. Now, looking at the divorce papers, the mockery on his face deepened. Ava, are you sure about this? You think you can survive in this industry after leaving me? You won't even be able to pay your rent. You don't need to worry about that. I picked up the pen and signed my name. Ava Bellwether. My real name before I married him. My decisiveness seemed to infuriate Ethan. He snatched the pen violently and scrawled his signature across the agreement. Fine, just fine. He slammed the papers onto the table, his eyes cold. Ava, you will regret this. You'll come crying back to me in less than 3 months. I didn't look back. I walked straight out of that opulent cage-like dressing room. Behind me his cold, certain voice lingered. Regret? I didn't know. I only knew that staying any longer would suffocate me. Our families had been close for generations, even arranging a childhood engagement before I was born. Later my family's fortunes declined and my parents died unexpectedly. It was Ethan's grandfather, Mr. Sterling Sr., who brought me into the Sterling household, promising to take care of me for life. Mr. Sterling Sr. was kind and true to his word. But people change. Ethan had been smitten with the talented and beautiful Olivia since college, viewing me, the fiancée, suddenly thrust into his life with nothing but annoyance. If not for his grandfather's dying wish and the pressures of family interests, he never would have married me. So this marriage was doomed from the start. He married me, but his heart belonged to someone else. I even remember one incredibly rare occasion when he initiated closeness, smelling of alcohol. A few days after that night, Olivia conspicuously announced a new relationship on social media, posting pictures of luxury gifts and a vague shot of a man's profile. The timing was chillingly coincidental. Had he after that night rushed to appease his sweetheart with extravagant compensation? I didn't dare dwell on it. The divorce was finalized quickly. The division of assets was even simpler. The prenuptial agreement had been drafted long ago by Ethan's mother, the haughty Mrs. Sterling. I left with practically nothing except for a bank card in my own name, holding the meager savings I'd scraped together writing songs and taking occasional small roles in low-budget web dramas over the years. My only solace was a villa on the outskirts of the city, gifted to me by my grandfather when I turned 18. He had bought it with his personal funds and put it solely in my name, circumventing the prenup's clauses. It was the last safety net my grandfather left me. I sold the villa, securing some startup capital. I naively believed that free from Ethan's shadow I could restart my career. Reality quickly delivered a harsh slap. My agent, an industry veteran who had previously been reasonably polite, called. His tone was cold, distant. Ava, sorry. The company's decided to terminate your contract. The glare of the spotlights burned my eyes. Thunderous applause echoed from the audience below. The host's amplified voice cut through the din, announcing the winner of the annual award for Best Original Song, Olivia Foster. I stood in the shadows, wingside, dressed in an ill-fitting backup gown, feeling like an awkward bystander. Meanwhile, my husband Ethan Sterling stood confidently on stage, personally handing the crystal trophy, a symbol of dreams and glory, to the sweetly smiling Olivia. Olivia, your talent deserves all of this. Ethan's voice carried through the microphone, reaching every corner of the venue, including the frozen depths of my heart. Olivia accepted the award, embracing him emotionally. Under the lights, they looked perfectly matched, as if they were the ones truly meant for each other. No one knew that the award-winning song Starlight Whispers was mine. The air in the dressing room after the ceremony was thick with tension. Ethan loosened his tie, his face flushed from alcohol, tinged with impatience. Ava, what are you sulking about now? He didn't even look at me, heading straight for the bar to pour himself a drink. It's just an award. Is it really worth giving me this attitude? I placed a document in front of him. The words, divorce agreement, were starkly clear. Let's get a divorce, Ethan. My voice was unervingly calm. His hand holding the glass paused. He finally turned to look at me, his eyes filled with disbelief and mockery. Divorce? Ava, have you lost your mind? Over an award? Don't you forget who gave you everything you have? What exactly do I have? I let out a soft, bitter laugh. A marriage I can't acknowledge? A career you casually suppress? Or the privilege of watching you repeatedly gift what should be mine to someone else? The name Ava Sterling had been a beautiful cage imprisoning me for 3 years. He was the untouchable heir to the Sterling Group, and I was merely an orphan taken in, a wife he was forced to marry for family alliances. For the past 6 months, his promotion of Olivia had become almost blatant. He assembled a top-tier team for her, leveraged Sterling Group resources to pave her way, even personally securing investments and making appearances for her. Everyone in the industry envied Olivia's luck, but who knew she was trampling on someone else's hard work and dignity? I hadn't stayed silent. But every protest was met with Ethan's scorn and verbal abuse. Ava, look at yourself. What can you do besides plunk out a few sad tunes? Olivia is younger, prettier, and has more potential. What's wrong with me promoting her? The stuff you write is too niche, too small scale. It doesn't belong on the main stage. Olivia's voice gives it life. Why can't you just be Mrs. Sterling quietly? Why insist on embarrassing yourself in public? His words were knives slicing away at my heart piece by piece. I remember once in a rare good mood I told him I craved the famous Black Forest cake from the bakery on the west side. He came home that night and casually tossed a box at me. Inside was only half a cake, the edges clearly showing marks from a spoon. Here, he'd said nonchalantly, Olivia's leftovers. She said it was pretty good. As if it were a favor, not charity. I stared at the half-eaten cake, nausea rising in my stomach. I don't even like sweets, especially chocolate. He didn't know, or rather he never cared enough to find out. Just like he never cared about me as a person. In these 3 years he never once acknowledged me publicly as his wife. When the media speculated, he dismissively referred to me as a friend. He allowed me to continue my music career but shackled me tightly. No roles with intimate scenes, no on-screen kisses, not even the slightest hint of a rumor with a male co-star. Any whiff of scandal brought his furious accusations and a complete shutdown of my resources. My career under his control was a constant struggle. Now looking at the divorce papers, the mockery on his face deepened. Ava, are you sure about this? You think you can survive in this industry without me? You won't even be able to afford rent. You don't need to worry about that. I picked up the pen and signed my name. Ava Bellwether. My real name before I married him. My decisiveness seemed to infuriate Ethan. He snatched the pen violently and scrawled his signature across the agreement. Fine. It's fine. He slammed the papers onto the table, his eyes glacial. Ava, you'll regret this. You'll come crying back to me within 3 months. I didn't look back. I walked straight out of the opulent dressing room that had felt like a prison. Behind me his cold, certain voice lingered. Regret? I didn't know. All I knew was that staying any longer would suffocate me. Our families were longtime friends. There was even talk of an arranged childhood match before I was born. Later my family's fortunes declined and my parents died unexpectedly. It was Ethan's grandfather, the elder Mr. Sterling, who brought me into the Sterling home, promising to take care of me for life. Mr. Sterling was kind and true to his word. But people change. Ethan had been infatuated with the talented and beautiful Olivia since college and only resented me, the fiancée, suddenly thrust into his life. If it weren't for his grandfather's dying wish and the ties of family interests, he never would have married me. So this marriage was doomed from the start. He married me, but his heart belonged to someone else. I even remember one incredibly rare occasion when he approached me smelling of alcohol. A few days after that night, Olivia conspicuously announced a new relationship on social media, posting pictures of luxury gifts and a vague shot of a man's profile. The timing was chillingly coincidental. Had he after that night showered his beloved with gifts to appease his guilt? I couldn't bear to think about it. The divorce was processed quickly. The division of assets was even simpler. The prenuptial agreement had been drafted long ago by Ethan's mother, the proud Mrs. Sterling. I left with practically nothing except for a bank card in my own name, holding the meager savings I'd scraped together from songwriting and occasional roles in low-budget web dramas over the years. My only solace was a suburban villa my grandfather had gifted me when I turned 18. He'd bought it with his personal funds and put it solely in my name, circumventing the prenup's clauses. It was the last safety net my grandfather had left me. I sold the villa, securing some startup capital. I naively thought that free from Ethan's shadow I could restart my career. Reality delivered a swift, harsh slap. My agent, an industry veteran who had previously been reasonably polite, called. His tone was cold, distant. Ava, I'm sorry. The agency has decided to terminate your contract. Why? I was stunned. Why? He sneered. Are you really asking? You know exactly who you pissed off, don't you? He didn't have to say the name. I knew it was Ethan Sterling. What followed was a complete industry blackout, swift and devastating. Several potential collaborations I'd been negotiating evaporated overnight. A production I'd already signed with found a flimsy excuse to replace me. My name became taboo within the industry. Simultaneously, two headlines dominated the entertainment news sections and social media trending topics. One was, Sterling Group spares no expense investing in A-list blockbuster films starring rising starlet Olivia Foster. The other, shocking insider scoop. A-list actress surname A spirals after divorce, allegedly hires trolls to smear ex-husband's new love Olivia. The accompanying images were a blurry profile shot of me and screenshots of supposed troll accounts. The text painted me as a jealous, vindictive, abandoned wife resorting to dirty tricks. Olivia's fans and Ethan's paid trolls flooded the comment sections of my long-dormant social media accounts, leaving vile insults. What a pretentious bitch. She's nothing without the Sterlings. What a pretentious bitch. She's nothing without the Sterlings. Serves you right for getting dumped. Look at Olivia, beautiful and talented. Who the hell do you think you are? Winning awards with stolen songs? Shameless. Get out of the entertainment industry. Reading those venomous words felt like 1,000 needles piercing my heart. I remembered all the years I'd adhered to Ethan's rules, turning down countless good opportunities, relegated to playing insignificant supporting roles in low-budget web dramas. Once during filming, a horse got spooked and I was thrown off, violently injuring my back. The production, trying to save money, didn't even arrange for a proper examination, just told me to rest for 2 days. When Ethan found out, he merely said, "Told you not to act, but you insisted. You brought this on yourself." No one cared about my injury. No one asked if I was in pain. Old wounds and new resentment crushed the air from my lungs. Silently, I completed the contract termination procedures. I deleted all my social media accounts and canceled the phone number I'd used for years. It felt like there was no place left for me in this city. My back injury throbbed, persistently aggravated by the recent stress and running around. With the remaining money from selling the villa, I bought a plane ticket to a remote island down south. I needed to get away. I needed to heal both physically and emotionally. The small island was far removed from the hustle and bustle. The air was fresh and the salty sea breeze unexpectedly soothed my frayed nerves. I rented a small wooden cabin by the sea and began a life of complete seclusion. My landlord was an elderly gentleman named Mr. Peterson. His hair was white, his skin tanned dark, and he always wore faded t-shirts. He was a man of few words, but his eyes were kind. One day I brought him some small pastries I'd baked and happened to glance at a large object covered by a dust cloth in the corner of his yard. "What's that?" I asked curiously. Mr. Peterson looked at me, then slowly lifted a corner of the cloth. A sleek, well-maintained black grand piano was revealed. There were faint scratches on its body, but you could still tell it was quite valuable. "An old piano," he said flatly, covering it back up. Something stirred within me. Music had been my dream, my soul buried under thick dust by Ethan's disapproval and suppression. Seeing this piano now felt like a long silent heartstring had been gently plucked. A few days later, I mustered the courage to ask Mr. Peterson if I could possibly borrow his piano. He was silent for a long time, so long I thought he was going to refuse. Finally he nodded. "Go ahead. Just don't break it." The moment my fingers touched the cool keys, tears almost fell. It felt rusty, yet the familiar sensation slowly returned. I started with simple exercises, then melodies buried deep in my memory. The music drifted on the sea breeze, carrying a faint sorrow but also a fragile seedling of hope breaking through the soil. On the island I met a little girl named Lily. She had a congenital heart condition, her face always pale but her eyes shone brightly. She loved listening to me play. Her parents told me the music helped her forget her illness for a while. I began writing songs for Lily and her little friends. Simple melodies, warm lyrics chronicling their innocent friendships and the quiet daily life on the island. I played the songs for them, and watching their faces light up with radiant smiles, I felt my own shattered heart slowly mending. I created a new social media account. The profile picture was a stray orange kitten I'd found on the beach. Using an old phone, I started recording videos of myself playing the piano and singing, posting them on YouTube. I didn't show my face. Just my hands, the piano, and the ocean view outside the window. I made no effort to promote the channel. I just wanted to document this special time the solace music brought me. I'd record, upload, then turn off the internet and go back to my island life. I stayed completely offline for 3 months, focusing on recovering from my back injury, playing the piano, writing songs, and spending time with Lily. After 3 months, my back was much better. I casually turned on my phone, connecting to the internet after a long absence. The flood of notifications and alerts almost made the phone freeze. My YouTube channel had somehow blown up. The last video I uploaded, the song I wrote for Lily called Island Summer, had surpassed 10 million views. The comments section was flooded with messages from all over the world. Voice of an angel. This sound healed me. Those hands are beautiful, playing the piano so gently. Full version, please. Need the audio. This song is amazing. Who is this creator? Come out. We want to give you money. My subscriber count had exploded from a handful to millions. Private messages poured in from major music platforms and record labels wanting to buy the rights to the songs, even offering me contracts. One email was from a familiar glaring company name, Sterling Entertainment. The email was formal and arrogant, stating they were interested in Island Summer and wanted to purchase the rights to use it as an insert song for Olivia Foster's upcoming drama. The offered price was low and the tone reeked of, "We're doing you a favor by even noticing your song." Staring at the email, I remembered Ethan's past dismissals and mockery of my music, remembered his face as he handed my hard work over to Olivia. Nausea churned in my stomach. Without hesitation, I blocked Sterling Entertainment's email address. My songs would never be sung by Olivia. Just then a strange man showed up at my door. He was tall, dressed simply in a white shirt and casual pants. He had a clean-cut look with an air of detachment. He stood at the yard gate watching me play the piano. "This piano," he said, his voice low and pleasant, "is mine." I froze. Who is he? Mr. Peterson hadn't mentioned the piano belonged to someone else. The man walked into the yard and introduced himself as Julian Hayes. He explained that he had left the piano here with Mr. Peterson for safekeeping. I felt awkward, assuming he wanted the piano back. "You can keep using it," Julian said, his gaze falling on the manuscript paper I had placed on the music stand. "But on one condition." "What condition?" "Write a song for me," he said. It wasn't until later that I learned Julian Hayes wasn't just some random guy. He was the final protege of an internationally renowned piano master, once a rising star hailed as the future of the classical music world. A few years ago, a severe car accident had left his older brother in a vegetative state and had also destroyed the dexterity in his right hand, the one he used to play piano. The immense trauma and family tragedy plunged him into a severe depression, forcing him to halt all performances and studies and retreat to this small island to recuperate. Mr. Peterson was an old friend of his father's, which was why Julian had entrusted his beloved piano to his care here. He'd heard me playing, seen my manuscripts. He said my music held a kind of power of regrowth after being broken. Our paths began to cross more often. He would often sit quietly on the lounge chair in the yard listening while I played. We started talking occasionally, about music, the island, the pasts neither of us really wanted to touch. He appreciated my talent and I felt a kind of resonance with him, a connection forged from shared hardship. We were both people who had been knocked down hard by fate. I agreed to write a song for him. I called it Dawn. It was about praying in the darkness, longing for distant loved ones and holding on to hope for the future. When I played the demo for him, he was silent for a long time, his eyes slightly red around the rims. "Thank you, Ava," he said softly. To add more emotional depth to the song, I asked Julian if he would play a simple chord progression with his still functional left hand. I posted a video of our collaboration, me singing, him playing, to the Cat Who Loves Fish account. This time I didn't stay completely hidden. The video showed a side profile of Julian and me sitting together at the piano. The moment the video went live, the internet exploded. "OMG. That guy. It's Julian Hayes. The piano prince Julian Hayes. It really is him. And that piano. I recognize it. It's the custom model he always used in his concerts. Julian Hayes has been missing for years and he's here. What's his connection to this mysterious Cat Who Loves Fish? Dream team. This song is incredible. Please debut together like right now. Her voice is so ethereal and healing, and Julian's playing, even just with his left hand, still has so much soul. I'm crying. My name, Julian's name, and the cat who loves fish. Account shot to the top of trending lists across all platforms at unprecedented speed. My follower count grew exponentially again. Countless collaboration offers and interview requests started pouring in like an avalanche. My former agency caught wind of it too. The boss himself called his tones sickeningly sweet, claiming everything before was just a misunderstanding. He hoped I could let bygones be bygones, and re-sign, promising the company would give me their best resources. I hung up immediately and blocked his number. They kicked me when I was down, and now that I was blowing up they wanted a piece of the pie? Too late. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. One evening, as I was helping Mr. Peterson mend some fishing nets in the yard, an obnoxiously flashy black sedan pulled up at the end of the lane. The door opened and the person who stepped out was Ethan Sterling. He looked thinner, his face dark, his eyes fixed on me with a complicated expression. It had been months and it seemed things weren't going well for him. Then he saw Julian standing beside me and his gaze instantly turned hostile and scrutinizing. As it happened, Julian's old injuries were acting up that day, making him a bit unsteady on his feet. I instinctively reached out to steady him, letting him lean on me for a moment. That single image seemed to ignite Ethan's fury. Ava. He stormed over, trying to pull me away from Julian. What the hell are you doing? Getting handsy with this pretty boy? Have you forgotten who you are? I yanked my arm free and stared at him coldly. Ethan Sterling, we are divorced. Who I am has nothing to do with you anymore. So you get divorced and decide to debase yourself like this? He spat, words tumbling out without thought, his glare slicing over Julian. You'd actually stoop to this kind of trash? Come back with me. Go back. I laughed as if I'd heard the world's biggest joke. Go back where, Ethan? Back to that cage? Continue being your wife kept hidden in the shadows? Or go back to being a stepping stone for you and your precious Olivia? Ava, stop making a scene. Ethan's tone softened slightly, attempting to play the sympathy card. I know I was wrong before I neglected you. But we were married after all. Your grandfather wanted us to be okay. Come back with me. I promise I'll treat you better from now on. He paused, then added, oh right. That cat who loves fish account of yours is really popular. That Island Summer song is decent. Name your price. Sell it to me, let Olivia sing it. I'll make you famous, make you a top producer. How about that? Even now all he could think about was Olivia, about using me. I couldn't hold back anymore. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. The crack echoed sharply in the quiet evening air. Ethan stumbled back, stunned, staring at me in disbelief. Ethan Sterling, you listen to me. My voice trembled with fury, 3 years of suppressed hurt and resentment finally erupting. What exactly am I to you? Something you can just throw away? A breeding machine to fulfill your family's agenda? Did you think I didn't know your mother planned to kick me out the second I gave birth, to keep the child and discard the mother? I saw the shock in Ethan's eyes. Clearly he hadn't known about that particular part of his mother's plan. You, your mother, your whole ungrateful family. You owe the Bellwethers, you owe my grandfather a debt you can never repay. If it weren't for my grandfather, would the Sterlings even be where they are today? And now that you've made it, you turn your backs, treat me like a rag to be used and thrown away. Have you ever shown me even a shred of respect? An ounce of genuine feeling? You put Olivia on a pedestal, treat her like a treasure, but have you ever really looked at what kind of person she is? Do you honestly think she loves you? She loves the Sterling power and money. Let me make this perfectly clear. My songs, anything that's mine, you, Olivia, and the entire Sterling family can forget about ever touching them. Get out. Take your hypocrisy and your arrogance and get out of my sight. I yelled until I ran out of breath, my chest heaving. Ethan's face was pale, his lips trembling as if he wanted to say something, but no words came out. He seemed utterly stunned by the truths I'd thrown at him, by a side of me he'd never seen. He turned awkwardly, scrambled back into his car, and sped away like a coward. Watching the car disappear down the lane, I felt completely drained, leaning back against the wall for support. Julian silently handed me a glass of water, his eyes filled with concern and a subtle, almost hidden ache of empathy. After sending Ethan packing, I received an unexpected call. It was from the head of Phoenix Pictures, Sterling Entertainment's biggest rival. They were also interested in buying my songs, and their offer seemed genuinely respectful. I laid out my terms. They could have the rights to the songs, but only if I was the one to perform them. And furthermore, I wanted a contract with Phoenix Pictures' own music label. They agreed without hesitation. My new agent was Ruby, a powerhouse known throughout the industry for her iron will. Swift and decisive, she quickly handled my contract and began preparing for my comeback. The first thing Ruby did was thoroughly investigate the truth behind the suppression I'd faced over the past 3 years. The findings were chilling. Ethan hadn't just used his connections to intercept several major script and song offers meant for me. He had also secretly spread rumors that I was difficult to work with and lacked professional skills. He even colluded with my previous small agency, deliberately assigning me projects with harsh conditions, low pay, and a high risk of accidents, like the time I fell off the horse. Even more venomous, Ruby uncovered communication records belonging to Ethan's mother, the Sterling matriarch. Just as I'd suspected, she had planned all along to find an excuse to kick me out of the family once I'd given birth to an heir, even if it meant manufacturing an accident. When Ruby laid all this evidence before me, a deep chill ran through me. "Ava, what do you want to do?" Ruby asked. "If this gets out, the Sterling family and Ethan will be utterly disgraced." I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "It's not time yet. I want to win back my place fair and square with my work." Under Ruby's management, I officially returned to the music scene under my real name, Ava Bellwether, bringing my new songs with me. Phoenix Pictures tailored my first album, with the lead single being Daybreak, the song I wrote for Julian. Upon release, the album immediately shot to the top of major music charts. My voice, my story, my talent, conveyed through music, resonated deeply with listeners. The light that had been suppressed for so long was finally allowed to shine. My concerts sold out night after night. Fans held up signs with my name, chanting it loudly. Standing under the spotlight, singing my own songs, watching the sea of waving glow sticks below my eyes welled up. This was the stage that truly belonged to me. Just as my career was reaching new heights, Ethan Sterling suddenly posted a photo of our marriage certificate, obviously redacted, on social media, captioned, "3 years unchanged." He was trying to tie me back to the identity of Mrs. Sterling, ride my coattails, and salvage his precarious reputation. After all, following my powerful comeback, the big-budget movie starring his protégée Olivia had bombed both critically and commercially. Olivia was ridiculed as box office poison, and talk of the Sterling Group's questionable investment acumen was rampant. His calculations were obvious, but unfortunately for him, I was no longer the Ava he could manipulate from 3 years ago. Using my official account, I simply responded with 2 words: "Already divorced." Attached was a screenshot showing the effective date of the divorce decree. Public opinion flipped instantly. The public wasn't stupid. Connecting the dots between Olivia's previous award, the rumors of my suppression, and Ethan's current stunt, the truth became blindingly obvious. Holy shit. So Ava was cheated on and suppressed during her marriage? Ethan Sterling is such scum. Married in secret for 3 years, and now that she's famous, he remembers his ex-wife? Does he have any shame? I feel so bad for Ava. Bullied like that by a scumbag and the other woman, and now that she's successful on her own, they still want to leech off her. What kind of people are the Sterlings? So disgusting. Olivia's no saint either, homewrecker who stole someone else's work. Ethan and the Sterling family's reputation plummeted. The final stop of my concert tour was set in the city where my career had first taken off. Ruby had arranged a special surprise. As the intro to Daybreak began, a platform slowly rose, revealing Julian seated at a piano, dressed in a white suit, offering me a gentle smile. The entire venue erupted. We performed together, my voice blending perfectly with his piano accompaniment. His left hand moved with its old dexterity. On stage, our eyes met, perfectly in sync. Everyone could see the palpable connection flowing between us. After the show backstage, Ethan, somehow managing to get past security, blocked my path. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with a wild desperation. "Ava." He grabbed my arm. "I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. It's you I love, it's always been you. Olivia was just a stupid mistake. Forgive me, can we get remarried? The Sterling family needs you and I need you. Watching his pathetic, insincere act, I found him both laughable and pitiful. Ethan, I said calmly, pulling my arm free. You don't love me. You love my value, the publicity the Sterling name desperately needs right now. As for Olivia, I glanced at the pale-faced woman standing not far away. You don't love her either. You just enjoyed the thrill of control, of shaping someone, enjoyed the vanity she brought you. Unfortunately for you, your creation failed. Once again, without mercy, I slapped him across the face. Don't bother me again. We ended a long time ago. I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, his cheek stinging, his face a mask of utter despair. Ethan's harassment didn't stop, and Olivia, desperate to divert attention from her box office failure and crumbling reputation, started stirring up trouble online again, hiring paid trolls to fabricate scandals about Julian and me. This time I didn't hold back. With Ruby's help, I released everything at once. The recording of Mrs. Sterling plotting to get rid of me after childbirth, the evidence of Ethan suppressing my career, and the hard proof that Olivia had stolen my work. The evidence was ironclad, leaving no room for denial. The Sterling family's reputation was completely destroyed, their stock price hitting limit down day after day. The Julian family, seeing their rival vulnerable and acting on instructions from Julian's older brother, who had woken up and was gradually recovering, decisively moved in for the kill. The already teetering Sterling Entertainment and its parent company ultimately declared bankruptcy. Ethan Sterling fell from grace, crashing down from the clouds into the mud. And Olivia became a social pariah, hated by everyone, her career utterly finished. Life always has its mix of joy and sorrow. Bad news came from the island. Lily's condition had worsened and she eventually lost her battle with illness, passing away peacefully surrounded by family. I was deeply saddened, but also felt a sliver of relief that she no longer had to suffer. Her smile would live forever in my song. The good news was that Julian's brother, with continued treatment, had miraculously awakened. Though the road to recovery would be long, there was finally hope. Julian too had finally emerged from the darkness that had plagued him. One starlit night, with a gentle sea breeze blowing, Julian took my hand and confessed his feelings seriously. Ava, meeting you was my greatest fortune. You were like a light that illuminated my darkest days. I want to walk the future path with you. Looking into his gentle, steady eyes, I nodded. We had been through too much to finally find each other. However, some people are destined for unhappy endings. Bankrupt and bitter, Mrs. Sterling directed all her resentment towards Olivia. One frantic night she attacked Olivia, throwing acid on her. Disfigured, terrified, and desperate, Olivia snapped. She lost control and drove her car directly at Mrs. Sterling, killing her instantly. Ethan, rushing to the scene presumably to protect his mother, perhaps instinctively, was struck by the out-of-control vehicle. He survived but was severely injured, left crippled in both legs. Olivia was thrown in jail, convicted of intentional injury and negligent homicide. The once prominent Sterling family, their reign marked by such opulence, met a devastatingly tragic end, the curtain falling violently on their legacy. 1 year later, Julian and I held our wedding on the very island where we first met. Sunshine, sandy beaches, the rhythm of the waves, and the warm wishes of our loved ones surrounded us. Mr. Peterson walked me down the aisle, placing my hand firmly in Julian's. Using the royalties from my music and partnering with Julian's family, I established the Lily Foundation on the island, dedicated to children with heart conditions. We also invested in upgrading the island's infrastructure, aiming to bolster the local tourism industry. Julian's brother made an excellent recovery and resumed leadership of the family enterprise. My music career continued its upward trajectory. I had become a genuine international sensation. At the wedding, the little orange tabby cat I had adopted, now noticeably pregnant with a round belly, sprawled lazily across the piano, soaking up the afternoon sun. Someone mentioned that a few days prior, down by the shore, they thought they saw an exceptionally beautiful luminescent blue fish darting through the water, disappearing into the waves in a mere flash. I knew. It was Lily finding another way to come back and watch over us. I squeezed Julian's hand tighter, my gaze fixed on the endless expanse where the azure sea met the clear blue sky. Everything felt serene, perfectly in place. The wounds of the past had finally scabbed over and healed, making way for a future brimming with happiness slowly unfurling before us. This time I had a firm grasp on my own light and I wasn't letting go.